So what's your name?
Alyssa Spizzato.
Okay, and what's your race?
White.
Age?
18.
Ethnicity?
That's like, just like where like you're from.
Yeah, nationality-wise.
Like Italian, Irish, Hungarian.
Okay. What's your gender?
Girl, she, her, she.
Okay. What's your major?
Music education.
And where are you from?
I'm from Long Island, Center Engineer.
Okay. What year are you?
I'm freshman.
And what's your religion that you have?
I'm Catholic.
Is there anything else that you think we should know about you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm just going to dive into it. What is your definition of censorship?
Like when someone wants to like speak their mind about something and then someone else is like preventing them from doing that.
Okay. While being at college, has there been a time that you've stopped yourself from saying something because of censorship?
I don't think so. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Do you believe you've been censored because of your major?
I mean, sometimes I felt like maybe I shouldn't talk about music so much because like I'm around people who don't really do it, and so like sometimes I'll just like stop talking about it because like, you know, it's just like everything that I do, so like I'm just like maybe I shouldn't.
Now, is that when you're in here as well, or just when you're outside talking to people from other majors?
Usually when I'm like talking with people from like other majors, but when I'm with people who are in my major, usually it's just fine.
Okay. Which groups are censored the most to you?
I feel like groups, like what kind of like groups? Like
It could be racial, it could be religion, it could be gender, it could be because of sexuality, it could be because of majors, because we just talked about that.
I think that like obviously like different races like are censored in different ways. Like I think that sometimes like depending on what a group of like people that you're in, if you're in a group of majority like white people, sometimes like black people can be like censored, and then like the same goes for like whatever race, like, and then like sometimes religions can be censored, like in the same way, like if you're predominantly with like people who might be like Christian or something, like people who might be like Muslim or something or Jewish can get censored, and then I feel like the same way around are people who like don't have any religion, sometimes people who are religious get censored. So I feel like there's lots of different ways that I feel like a lot of different groups can get censored.
Okay. You, as a lower classman, you're a lower classman, right? Have you seen or experienced any censorship on campus because you're a lower classman?
Yeah, sometimes I felt like a lot of like people, not necessarily like meaning to be like censored, but like, oh, like you're a freshman, like you don't know anything about this yet, which is like kind of like sucks because like I do have like experience, I do have things that I did like before I came to college that gave me experience. So sometimes I felt like that way, but I don't think that people were ever trying to do it like purposefully.
But you feel like it does happen sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel more censored by faculty or staff? If neither, it's fine.
Sometimes, like, I feel like I have to watch like what I say, or like, just not like necessarily just like, oh, what's wording to it? Like, not like just like be professional with faculty and stuff, but like also like sometimes like, when you're talking to like your professors, you don't want to like, I feel like you don't want to like overshare or like anything. So like I feel like sometimes it could be like you don't know like what kind of professor that you're always talking to. So like sometimes like you can get censored by them.
Okay. Now that we've done this, I'm going to give you the definition of censorship, and it's the suppression or prohibition. We get into that. Okay, the suppression of any parts of books, films, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security. So that's the definition that was given to us by Google. And now that I gave you that, do you have anything else to say about censorship, now knowing the correct definition?
Can you read the definition just one more time?
Yeah.
Just like
the suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, films, news, etc. That are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security.
I think that, yeah, like, I feel like knowing that it's not just like what, like, I feel like I kind of knew, like, I wasn't really thinking about like it could be like books and films and all of that stuff, and like I think that definitely like, especially like in like public high schools, like the books that you read are always like censored by your teachers, or like the things that you do when you're, you know, like a child, or like even just like a minor, like because I literally recently just turned 18 like over the past weekend, so like when you're a minor, like you feel like you're censored about like what you can do by like your parents and like even like what books you can read. Like everything needs to get approved by like your parents and everything. So like I think that there's like a lot of censorship, and like I feel like that's the way that like a lot of people try and like control what happens in society and control how people like are, because we all want to like, I guess, unify what people think. And I feel like a lot of times people's opinions and like people's like thoughts that are like almost like too radical can like be censored in a lot of ways. And I feel like that is like really prevalent, but people don't think about it a lot.
Do you feel like, because you talked about high school and how like that was a big thing, do you feel like that has carried over to you now being in college? Do you feel like it happens as much as often when it comes to like books and films like it did in high school for you?
I don't think so. I feel like in college it's a little bit more lenient as to like the topics that like are discussed in like classes or the topics that are discussed in like papers. Like I felt like in high school it was very like controversial. If you want to talk about like kind of like controversial political topic or like something like that in high school, it was like a big deal. Like you were really supposed to stay away from it. And I feel like in college you can be more encouraged to take on difficult topics, because that helps you like learn as like a person, because you can like grow from like what you learn from that.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Is there anything about you that you feel like we should know before we start this topic? No. Okay. What is your definition of censorship?
Censorship. Censorship is like controversial. So
No, it's
controversial topics. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Controversial topics about like things in our community, that some things like that aren't right and stuff like that.
Okay. While being at college, has there been a time where you stopped yourself from saying something because you feel because of censorship? No? Okay. Do you believe you've been censored because of your major? Which groups are censored the most on campus?
Like major wise?
Or just any, like racial, religion, ethnicity, major if you want it to be?
That's a good question. I never thought about this. Maybe Jewish people, because there's not a lot of them here. That's me.
As a lower classman, have you seen or experienced any censorship on campus?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you feel censored by faculty? No. Okay. I'm going to give you the definition of censorship, which is the suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, films, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security. Now that I gave you the definition of it, do you think is there anything else you would like to say about censorship and experiences that you have?
Not really.
Awesome.
So what's your name?
My name is Byron Grover.
Okay. What's your race?
I'm white.
And what's your age?
I'm 18 years old.
What's your major?
I am a triple major in theater, secondary education, and history.
Where are you from?
I am from Wellsville, New York.
Okay. What year are you?
I'm class of 2022.
So, freshman?
Yes.
What's your religion?
I'm agnostic.
Okay. Is there anything else that you feel like we should know about you before we start this interview? Okay. What is your definition of censorship?
I think censorship is definitely just when one group of people or even a singular person is trying to stop someone else from being able to express their opinion or who they are or anything like that.
Okay. While being at college, has there been a time that you stopped yourself from saying something because of censorship?
Yes and no.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah. I think a lot of times I don't say something, it's more of a personal censorship, just because I know there are a lot of, I don't want to use the word, but definitely there are a lot of cliquey groups on this campus, and I feel like there's a lot of personal censorship with everyone, where you being part of one group, like myself, I'm part of the performing arts kids, where you run into another group of people and you don't say certain things because you know it would get on their nerves.
Would you be able to like talk about an example?
An example, definitely, I don't want to make anyone mad around here, but definitely the Crane kids aren't that fond of the performing arts kids.
Okay.
And it definitely just gets to the point where sometimes Crane kids can be around and the PAC kids are like not wanting to say
Do you
anything.
believe censored because of your major? or any one of the three majors?
My majors specifically are pretty open. I don't do a lot with my education major right now because that's more of a graduate thing. But at least I know the history major and the theater major are generally pretty open. The professors are pretty open. They're not afraid to be themselves, and the students are more than welcome to be themselves, especially in the theater department, I would think. We have a lot of freedom of expression.
Okay, just to clarify, so you're saying that from your major side, from the side of your major, you don't feel like they're censoring anyone?
Yeah, I don't feel like the major specific professors are trying to censor anyone in those two majors.
Do you ever feel that other people are censoring you because of the major that you are, so other majors censoring you?
Yes, to an extent, but I also feel at times because of, like I mentioned with the Crane kids, I feel like, because not all the theater kids are just as submissive about it as I am. I feel like the theater kids kind of like go back and forth, and that's just one specific example I can think of is anyone in Crane, like a vocal performance major, for example, and then like a theater kid, they often go back and forth, especially with stuff like the musicals and everything, thinking one or the other is not talented enough to do certain things, and they try and censor each other and take
Or
control.
groups do you think are censored the most on campus? So it could be anything from like LGBTQ, race, gender, sexuality. Oh, that is LGBTQ. Major. Anything else you could possibly think of that I did not say twice or 3 times?
Right. Generally, in my opinion, Potsdam is a pretty open campus. I don't think there's a lot that they do censor. I do think there are specific times when they're not necessarily censoring it, but they don't want to acknowledge certain things, so they just kind of like leave it out. Like they're like, you're more than welcome to do it, but we don't really want to acknowledge it. So I don't know if Potsdam necessarily has as much of a problem with censorship, just more with straight up ignoring certain issues or topics.
Okay. So as a follow-up question, do you feel like some groups are censoring other groups, not just like Potsdam as an administration, but do you feel like it could be like group-to-group censorship? Which group? Oh, sorry. Which groups do you think are censored the most on campus? So it could be anything from like LGBTQ, race, gender, sexuality. Oh, that is LGBTQ. Major. Anything else you could possibly think of that I did not say twice or 3 times?
Right. Generally, in my opinion, Potsdam is a pretty open campus. I don't think there's a lot that they do censor. I do think there are specific times when they're not necessarily censoring it, but they don't want to acknowledge certain things, so they just kind of like leave it out. Like they're like, you're more than welcome to do it, but we don't really want to acknowledge it. So I don't know if Potsdam necessarily has as much of a problem with censorship, just more with straight up ignoring certain issues or topics.
Okay. So as a follow-up question, do you feel like some groups are censoring other groups, not just like Potsdam as an administration, but do you feel like it could be like group-to-group censorship going on?
Nope. Potsdam, like, administration's not gonna see this, right?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
No.
No. I had to like double take.
No,
what you
no,
said.
we're good.
Yeah, no.
There is certain instances, I know, just being an MTO.
Okay. Wait. Pause this real quick. Just
There are just certain groups on campus that I know, but one specifically would be MTO, and there was an issue in the past during a meeting where an MTO kid became frustrated and said something to the theater department, and since the theater department hasn't really liked MTO, and I know it's caused certain issues like things with our funding and how much SJ is willing to give us, or the fact that in certain instances, like other shows take precedence, like the theater department put on Much Ado the same days as Heather's at the same time, and so that also made it so not only were people not being able to come to our show because they did one extra day than us, so all of the days they pulled people away from the show, but then there was also we weren't able to use the nice stage, the proscenium. We had to use the Dunn Theater, and it's just stuff like that where we're not able to get access to the nicer things, even though we're all still theater kids. And I think a lot of it is just because the way they view us as more immature, and because we're student run.
Okay, all right. Wow. I lost my place because just wow. I'm sorry. Where was I? Oh, so you're a sophomore, correct? Okay.
Freshman.
Oh, you're a freshman. Okay. As a lower classman, have you felt or seen any censorship on campus?
I personally have not. I have seen things that are, like I said, where people avoid certain topics or discussions and issues, but not specific censorship.
Okay. Do you feel more censored? Oh, I hate that question. Do you feel censored by faculty?
Do I feel censored by faculty?
Yes.
Well, no, I do not. Just the faculty I have had this year, I've had very open and I've had teachers that are not afraid to act like people in front of their students, but I had professors like Jay Pecora especially that are just super open, and they're like, yeah, I'm a person, or Don Borsch, who comes in and he starts every class talking about how his home improvements are going. So I don't think we've had necessarily any problems with censorship with them, just because they themselves are very open, so they don't restrict us from being open.
Okay. I'm gonna give you the definition of censorship. So censorship is the suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, films, news, etc. It could be like any other stuff that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security.
Right.
So now that I give you the definition, is there anything else that you want to say about censorship?
No, and if I may, I do think, like I said, I think Potsdam is really lax on the censorship end, even going as far as there was a book just self-published by a student that the school helped the student kind of gather a little bit of interest for, Sam's story, and they're planning on putting on a live performance of it, and even stuff like that, it has a lot of LGBT themes. So I think even that speaks volumes about the lack of censorship thereof in our school. I definitely think there may be some issues with it in some majors, but I think mostly within the areas of theater and writing, anything creative, the censorship just isn't there so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hi,
What's your name?
Ryan.
What's your race?
White.
Age?
18.
Ethnicity?
White / Caucasian.
Gender?
Male.
Major?
I'm a double major in vocal performance and music education.
Where are you from?
Comac, New York. It's on Long Island.
Class year?
Freshman.
Religion?
Well, I was raised Catholic. Went to Catholic high school for 4 years, but I don't personally identify with Catholicism anymore. I am a very spiritual person, and I still believe in God, but I implicate into my religion, my own spirituality, a lot of influences from Buddhism and Hinduism.
Nice. Is there anything else that you think I should know about you, background information?
No.
Alright. What is your definition of censorship?
My definition of censorship? It's kind of tricky. I guess blocking harmful messages from being heard in public.
Okay. While being at SUNY Potsdam, has there ever been a time you've stopped yourself from saying something because of self-censorship?
because of self-censorship, I mean, yes and no. I don't really say things that offend people. I don't like to, and I don't like to. I mean, that's when talking about self-censorship. I feel like that's what most people would think about, is saying something offensive. But I personally don't like to say offensive things.
Okay. Do you believe that you've ever been censored because of your major?
Censored because of my major? Like, in what sense?
Like, has there been other people from other majors that have censored you or tried to censor you because of your major?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. What group on campus do you think is censored the most? And that could be a sexual group or a racial group, or if you don't think that happens at all, or...
I mean, obviously there's going to be censorship everywhere because of just the way that society works, but I feel like Potsdam is a really cool community because there's so many different people, and I really don't feel like, I mean, I haven't really seen a lot of censorship on campus, which is a good thing because, I mean, I haven't really met anyone here that like says those offensive things, but there's a lot of different communities here at Potsdam, and it's just really cool to see.
Nice. As a lower classman, do you feel that you've been censored because of how young you are? Like in relation to upperclassmen?
In relation to upperclassmen, at times, yes. I mean, there's been times in studio, not me personally, but like an underclassman, not even in my studio, but like I've heard things in like other studio classes where a freshman would raise their hand to give a critique to the person performing, and another upperclassman would either like roll their eyes or like talk about it in comments and be like, yeah, I can't believe they did that.
Okay, could you just say what a studio is for what?
So, the way that studio works is you perform something that you've been working on with your teacher that, you know, you take private lessons from, and then everyone else who takes lessons with that teacher views your performance and they give constructive criticism.
Thank you. Do you feel that you've ever been censored by faculty on campus?
No, I don't feel like I've been censored with my own identities, whether it be my gender expression or my orientation or anything, like any part of my identity, because I feel like the faculty here is really understanding and accepting and open to change.
Nice. Okay. Now I'm just going to read you the definition of censorship that we've collected pretty much. And it's the suppression or prohibition of any sort of books, films, news, etc. that are considered to be obscene, politically incorrect, or a threat to national security. So do you have anything else to say that Potsdam could work on with censorship, or do you think that is in a pretty good state?
I mean, not really. Like, I feel like there's censorship in the sense of like not offending anyone, but I feel like that's just because the people here are so much better than the people back home. But in terms of other types of censorship, like the bookstore literally just had a sale on banned books, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome, thank you so much. Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
Chris.
How old are you?
18.
What is your major?
Music education and tuba performance.
What's your religion?
I am non-denominational. I do not prefer religion.
Your race?
White.
What's your gender?
Male.
And where are you from?
I'm from Syracuse, New York.
Do you think there's any other personal background information that you think I should know?
No, I think that should be.
Alright, what is your definition of censorship?
Censorship is when there's when an institution, a major institution, or something of the sorts, like blocks people from truly understanding what's behind something else. Like, so like there may be a reason for something that's happening, but if that institution tries to keep people from knowing why things happen or how things happen, or even if something happens and they try to cover it up and keep it away.
Okay, cool. While being on SUNY campus, on SUNY Potsdam's campus, has there ever been a time you stopped yourself from saying something because of self-censorship?
Not particularly. Sometimes for professional reasons around other teachers and stuff. Usually like not saying certain things that might make me sound like some sort of idiot or something. That sort of thing.
Okay. Do you believe you've ever been censored because of your major?
No, I don't think I'm censored because of my major, but I also feel like it is a rather open, honest major where they feel that you should be open about yourself so that you can help understand others.
Nice. Do you think there's just a group, like specifically on campus, that has been censored, whether that's because of their religion or race or sexuality or gender?
Not particularly. I feel like the campus has been very open, at least from what I've noticed. Obviously, personally, there are not many biases against me in society, which I feel is wrong, but I feel that our campus does a lot to help groups that there is normally a bias against, and we do a lot to try and make a change for those problems in our small community.
Awesome. As a lowerclassman, have you ever felt censored because you're a lowerclassman by upperclassmen?
Not particularly, but all the upperclassmen that I've came to be friends with are very kind people that seem to want me to express myself and seem to want me to be open and friendly about things, and they're always checking up on me and making sure everything's going okay. So I feel really safe with the upperclassmen I've been with.
Nice. Do you feel censored by faculty on campus?
The faculty I've been around has been particularly open with me. I mean, they will ask me what's going on, make sure everything in my life is going okay. I think I've been in a very tight and strong community, at least that I've experienced, but I also have heard of other people that have been not so much. But I don't know enough about those experiences. I only know mine.
Okay. Now I'm just going to read to you the definition of censorship that we've collected overall, which is the suppression or prohibition of any sort of books, films, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically incorrect, or a threat to society.
Okay.
Do you have anything else to say on the matter with that definition in
No,
mind?
I think that's a very accurate definition. It's something that, similar to what I said with a body, like trying to keep people from, pretty much keep knowledge away from people for whatever reason they may feel. And yeah, I don't think that's okay, that everyone should be able to openly, freely express knowledge they have so that others can understand even just each other's perspectives on the world.
And overall, you don't believe that this is a problem on SUNY Potsdam's campus?
I believe that is much less of a problem here than it is in other places, but obviously if it is a thing, then we may not even know about it because, well, they're probably doing a pretty good job.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.